Hello and welcome back to the show. Today we are reviewing Everton West Ham. I'm wearing an Everton shirt because, yet again, life as an Everton supporter is great. We've won, we're back on the winners list with a 1-0 hard-fought win. I would say this is probably the most admirable performance of the season. It wasn't easy, but I think that's what makes the win so much better. And given the week's events with Bill Kenwright passing, we needed a performance that was pretty on brand for Everton, and I think this was a very Sean Dyche performance. I mean, we made things difficult for the opposition. We got the crowd frustrated. We were physical. The conditions, it wasn't clean. And obviously the scorecard really epitomizes that. But all that matters is the 3 points. And we got what we set out to achieve. And if I'm honest, the first half was the biggest waste of a 45 minutes I could have asked for. Because not too much happened. There were a couple of opportunities. There was that Jack Harrison chance. It was a 3-on-1 break. And unfortunately, we decided to all cram together into one. And that's why the West Ham defender was able to cover the shot attempt. But outside of that, I think there was a DCL handball in the box. That's as close as we got, those two chances. And we needed some more zap going into the second half because, we were lacking that potency going forward, and West Ham were the same. The commentary team were banging on about, how both teams were playing each other with the same game style because they're the same kind of team. A very non-possessive sort of team. And in this game, we did something different to the last time we played West Ham, the last time we played them. We had 68% possession and lost 2-0. Today, we had 36% possession and won 1-0 and had a clean sheet. So that was the first time this season that West Ham hadn't scored at the London Stadium in the calendar year, should I say. So excellent stuff by this team. Clean sheets are hard to come by, especially if you're an Everton team. But yeah, let's actually talk about some of the key players and the key things that happened in this match. And first up, let's talk about the player of the game. There are a lot of candidates because, this was a very collective team performance. I'm going to give it to Dominic Calvert Lewin because obviously you look at the one goal and you look at the 0 goals on the other side. Who was the difference maker? When we needed a hero, it was Dominic Calvert Lewin. For the conditions, for the amount of pressure that was on him in that specific situation, to be able to chop turn, create that separation, and then be centimetre perfect with the shot. That's incredibly difficult to do, but Dominic Calvert Lewin, he said in a post-game interview that he is in a flow state. It's just a part of his rhythm, and I think the more games DCL gets under his belt, he's going to be 100% better for it. And I think even though today in the first half at least, he wasn't getting too much service, his hold-up play was still excellent. In the second half, there was one grazing header that he did. He's been brilliant with the flick-ons this year. Doucouré had a great chance to, make it 2, but it was an incredible save by Areola to keep the ball out of the net. But you could chalk that down to DCL and his flick-on. But yeah, he's just been brilliant. It really changes that whole dynamic of how we play, simply put. And, there were stages where things weren't going his way much higher up the pitch, where he's more dangerous and where we're more dangerous as a team because obviously the goal threat is pretty close. He was, getting into our defensive half and he was providing an option as an outlet. And then also, he'd approach the ball, he'd pass it off, then run forward. So it was a quick pass and play, pass and move, which is exactly what we needed to do in the first half. We weren't doing enough of it. We didn't show that urgency, but Dominic Calvert-Lewin was carrying himself the right way, the way we needed our players to play, essentially. So there were those times where he'd come up into the defensive half, serve as an outlet, and then be able to pass it back, so then we could slowly bring the ball up and use DCL as that outlet, which we were looking for. So, yeah, I think he was excellent today. I think he's everything you want in a number 9. And the more games he plays, I think he's going to become incredibly consistent when, he finds his flow which he claims he's currently in that state of mind right now, which obviously is going to result in a better Everton. You know, anytime you get a clean sheet, you've got to praise the defence. And that centre-half pairing of Jarrad Branthwaite and James Tarkowski is really forming into something nice. Because, man, Jarrad Branthwaite, this guy, 21 years old, I would trust him with my life. I would trust him, you know, against a player like Erling Haaland. I mean, he is the perfect build. He's probably about the same height or similar. You know, physically, he's incredibly good and he's incredibly composed as well. Any potential danger clears it. You know, anytime he's one-on-one with a fast attacker, I back him in there as well. Because, you know, he's able to body players off the ball. He did that with Antonio, who, no joke, is a pretty big boy himself. So, Jarrad Branthwaite, I mean, for 21 years old, this guy is untradeable. You cannot get rid of this guy. I don't care if you get offered 200 mil. I would keep this guy. This guy's unreal. 64 touches, 10 clearances, 7 ball recoveries, 3 aerial duels, 2 interceptions, 2 tackles, 1 block. And I think that really, you know, epitomizes his all-round game. He can do a little bit of everything. There were a couple times where there were some dangerous crosses by West Ham, and he was able to graze the ball away and, you know, ensure that that ball wasn't getting delivered to who West Ham were looking for. So, I mean, he is just an incredible asset to have, whether we have him for the long term or not. He's going to be incredibly important in the direction of this team, this organization. It's incredible. And look, the last 6 results, I mean, it's also amazing we've won 3 away games, or 2 away games. No, 3 away games if we count the cup fixture. We've won 4 out of our last 6. Amazingly, one of those losses was against Luton, but, you know, credit to us for really responding after, you know, a start to the season which didn't, you know, provide fruit for our labour. We were generating a lot of shots and the results weren't coming, but now we're starting to see those results as the quality seeps in. And as we said before, Dominic Calvert Lewin, when you needed a little bit of skill to be the difference maker in a game where there was a lot of it lacking, exceptional stuff by Dom to, you know, create that separation we needed to get the win. The only forced change of the weekend was Nathan Patterson coming into the side for Ashley Young due to suspension. I think Nathan Patterson at the start, you know, sort of needed to grow into the game a little bit because he was getting beaten a couple times. There were a few moments of skill by, I think it was Lucas Paqueta, to bypass him. But I think to Patterson's credit, he really responded well, especially in the back end of the game where they were really trying to feed the wingers on his side. I think he really cut out those diagonal balls that, you know, they were using to try and feed the West Ham winger. So I think he did really well there. He stayed pretty disciplined. There was one where Lucas Paqueta went down, basically near the corner flag, and, you know, Patterson just stayed upright, stayed stable and firm, and, you know, waited for Paqueta to initiate that contact, which he did, and he looked like a bit of a clown when he was complaining, and, yeah, I mean, got a yellow card for it. So Patterson, I think he's going to be better with every game he plays, with every passing game he plays. The experience will do him good. And look, I'm willing to run the risk of whatever playing Patterson at right back could result in. But you know what? I'm here for it if it's in the long term, once again, going to benefit us. Because I think today we had a very young team out there. So I think the more this team meshes and plays together and gets reps under their belt, working collectively, I think they're going to become a really solid team, especially down the line. I also have to give credit to the midfield because in the first half, it didn't look like they were covering ground too much and not really being progressive, if that makes sense. I think between the boxes, Onana and Ghana weren't really providing what we needed. We needed some more creativity from them. We needed more tracking back from them because there were times where we needed to rely on the centre halves to get it done. But in the second half, they were instrumental. Amadou Onana had a really good second half as well, really trying to drive us forward. It really wasn't the flashy stuff with him. Like many others, I think we did really well in executing the sliding tackle today. Obviously, the ball skidding on because of the dew or the rain. And with that, you can also skid as well a lot easier. And Onana was doing that quite well. He was causing Kudus a bit of trouble as well. You know, Kudus was doing pretty well to carry the ball, but Onana was right on his tail and ensured that everything was made difficult. I mean, in that second half when things needed to tighten up and we needed to become more compact in order to, you know, protect that lead, I think Onana was excellent. He was vital in providing, you know, a little bit more congestion, you know, giving us that extra body to help us, you know, combat all those West Ham attacks that came late. Speaking of the sliding tackle, though, I do think that composure obviously was a big part of our win today. But I think knowing when to tackle in that manner and when to hold back, I think that was a huge part of our win today as well. There were a couple times where James Garner could have slid and actually surrendered positioning, strong positioning, but, you know, he remained upright and kept, you know, the attacker in front of him and ensured that they couldn't really do anything with it because, you know, he was obviously blocking the pathway, the outlet to goal. So I think he was pretty strong at, you know, not biting when there was a potential opportunity and then actually pouncing and staying upright when, you know, the opportunity did surface. I think it's those small details which can go a long way because, you know, obviously if you surrender that position, you let a West Ham attacker get by, there could be a few more issues surmounting because, you know, you couldn't stay composed and level-headed in a certain situation. Overall, really happy with the win today, though. I mean, we did what we set out to achieve. As I said, we gave them little opportunity. They were taking a lot of shots from outside the box. We discouraged them. We discouraged the fan base because they were getting restless. We remained focused. And obviously, when we score first, history suggests under Deitch, we win. We've never lost. At least we would have picked up a draw, you know. So, I mean, this was an excellent win. We've got Brighton next. As far as I'm concerned, let's go out there and beat them. Like, it's that simple. I mean, we've just got to keep this mentality going. It's going to be a Goodison, which is actually a tougher hill to climb when we're playing at home. So, yeah, it's going to be a very intriguing contest because Brighton obviously are a well-drilled, good football side that have a lot of talent in their starting lineup and also coming off their bench. So we're going to be challenged. But if, you know, today was proof of anything, it's that we are indeed up for the challenge. And we may have to graft yet again, which is, you know, typical of a Deitch team. But, you know, all I ask is we leave it out there on the pitch. 100% effort. And I think we'll be okay. So we're looking already a lot better than last season. There is a fair bit of optimism. The team is younger. The team is performing better. We're getting better quality performances out of these younger players, which is always what you want to see. So yeah, look, I'm looking forward to next week. But thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week. Stay safe and we'll see you soon. Bye for now.